Raymond, the illegitimate son of the king, lived a life of scorn and insult. He was hated by everyone in the world. But there was one talent even someone like him had. He could heal others, a power that was considered a blessing from heaven. Healers were highly respected in his world regardless of who they were or where they came from. He saw no other way to live a good life but to become a healer. He toiled hard for many years to become a good healer, but his fate did not have that in mind. His talent was merely F rank. It was even lower than that, but F was the lowest rank assignable. He could not overcome that obstacle even after 5 years of being an apprentice and working hard. In the end, he was reduced to an errand boy at the clinic. Everyone called him names and they did not hesitate to say bad things to his face. The most common insult he heard was bastard. But he realized that there was nothing he could do about it. It was the truth and his talent was too pathetic to change anything. But one day while he was cleaning the library, a miracle happened with our protagonist. He felt a flash of light coming behind him and fell down due to the sudden shock. There was a screen or a floating message in front of him as he turned back. It told him that he had awakened as a player and his class was surgeon. He cannot believe what he saw. He did not even know the word in the message. What was a surgeon? But he thinks that he was just hallucinating because he was overworked. But just as he shrugs it out, he finds himself in a strange world. It is the scene from an operation theater and a team of surgeons is treating a patient. Raymond is shocked at seeing things around him, as the doctors talk about things he has not heard of before, and use tools he has never seen before. He is shocked. But he understands everything they say like it was suddenly put into his memory. He knows what vitals mean, what the medicine that was injected into the patient's body and what the scissors-like instrument they used it. He knows the correct etiquette to be in an operation theater. The surgeons were conducting the surgery of a ruptured spleen, a splenectomy. Raymond realizes he was a doctor like the other people in the room right now. He could not save the patient with the heal ability he had, but the medical procedure the doctors were using could do the work. Just as he realizes this, he wakes up in the real world. He had made a mess when he fell down on seeing the screen. But he thinks that the treatment he saw in the illusion just now was weird. It was savage and probably would kill the patient. He thinks that it was just a dream because he was sleep deprived. But he realizes deep down that it was all true. He knew everything even though he heard it for the first time. And he knew that the surgery would be successful, even more so than healing magic. There were many people on the continent of Lapentana that could not be saved with heal, but he could save them with surgery. But just as he is wondering about it, the screen shows him another message. His class surgeon was an SSS-Rank job. He is advised to check his status window. He is surprised on learning too many new terms, but when he sees the window, he finds a lot more things. The status window told him that he was rookie resident in his job profile. He had no secondary class and all his stats were low other than intelligence. His academic skills were better as he had good knowledge of medical botany and endemic pathology. But his surgery skills were between C and D ranks. He also had a passive skill, Heart of Steel, whose proficiency was D. The system tells him that he was too low level to fully utilize his potential as a surgeon. He needed to treat people to level up and that way he could grow at an unbelievable rate. Raymond wonders what was happening, but he is certain that it had to be out of this world. But just then, a healer comes into the library and starts yelling at Raymond. He dumps dirty clothes on his head and says that he was good at mixing in with the filth. The other apprentices and healers also talk that Raymond should have left the clinic by now. He was here only because he was the illegitimate son of the king. But even the king did not seem to care about him and had discarded him. But they make sure to not speak the word king or his name so that they would not be caught for slander. But then the chief healer of the Bellin clinic, Langs, calls Raymond to his office. He is scared of going there, and when he goes there, Langs greets him as his senior. He had joined the clinic 1 year after Raymond but had quickly gained the knowledge and faith of everyone to become a B-rank healer and also the chief healer in only 4 years. Raymond relies on flattery and it is clear that he has no confidence in himself. Langs tells him that he had been a burden to the clinic for 5 years and they had decided that he would be removed from the clinic. He would be stripped of the title of an apprentice. Langs says that he should gather his things and leave immediately. But these words are a blow to Raymond. He bows down and begs Langs to reconsider, but he does not seem to be interested. Raymond panics. If he could not become a healer, he would never lead a good life. But if he was kicked out, he could never become a healer. But the system reminds him that he can save people through surgery. He is determined to change his life and requests Langs to give him one last chance. He asks to be assigned a patient and he would successfully treat him. He is confident in the knowledge he got from awakening as a player. Langs is habitual of looking down on Raymond and mocks him that he thinks it is easy to treat someone. But he had a patient that could be the perfect testing ground for his senior's ability. He gives him the details of the patient and agrees that if Raymond could treat the patient, he could stay in the clinic. Raymond goes to Rankin Street, where the patient lives. He is nervous if he can do it, but he had to do it anyhow. If he failed now, he would never be able to take the certification exam and would never be more than an unauthorized doctor for the rest of his life. Even then, if it was reported that he was treating patients without a certificate, he would be sent to prison. That would bring even more insults to him and shame to his father. As he is thinking about the risks and rewards of trying, The door opens in his face and he is thrown to the road. A small girl opens the door and she immediately realizes who had come to visit them. She runs to Raymond and asks if he was from the Bellin clinic with tears in her eyes. She calls her mother, who also cannot believe that a doctor came to their house. They welcome him and treat him with respect even after he tells them he was just an apprentice. The woman requests Raymond to save her husband. They were too poor to pay the fee for his treatment and the hospital had denied to see him properly. Raymond was the last hope for their family. He reads the patient's details and finds that it was indeed a complex and hard treatment. He had a gluteal infection, or an infection in the buttocks that would need a B-rank heal. The family was too poor to pay for his treatment and he would die without help. This situation reminds him of his childhood. Once he was in the shoes of the little girl. His mother was very ill and he had begged at the doors of all the clinics he could find. She was denied treatment because they did not have money and she died. He goes to see the patient and the system rewards him for volunteering to treat a patient. He was granted 5 skill points. The system adds that he could gain skill points for completing tasks or achievements. They could be used to buy skills that would help him in treating his patients. He is relieved that there were explanations on how to use the features he had got. The system generates his first quest. He had to treat his first patient. The difficulty was low, and the medical technique was half scalpel rank. The reward for completing it would be an increase in level and 10 skill points. Raymond decides that even though he had come here to avoid being expelled, he would definitely save his first patient. He had knowledge of surgery and medical procedures. He would gain experience and level up as a surgeon and become a great healer one day. But before that, he had to treat his first patient. The room of the patient smelled really bad and Raymond gets nervous as he tries to enter it. He forgets his basic training as an apprentice, but there is something that calms him down. His passive skill, Heart of Steel, was a legendary skill, although he had only a D-level proficiency in it. It boosted his determination and his will to be able to give the best treatment to his patients. He feels his heart rate calming down and can take the next step in treating his patient. He is informed by the system that his determination would increase as his proficiency in the skill increases. Raymond listens to the details the patient's wife had to tell and checks for his vitals. The good thing is that the infection had not turned septic yet. With swift treatment, the patient could be saved. While the hip abscess was hard to treat with heal, it was a basic ailment in the medical science. He asks the wife and daughter of the patient to assist him in the treatment. He would need clean water that had been boiled and cooled down, and he would also need a sharp knife. The woman does not understand the need for a knife and is afraid of the methods the apprentice was going to use. He tells them that he was going to perform a surgery, but no one in this world had heard of that term. The preparations are done and Raymond is about to make the cut to start the surgery. But the terrified wife holds his hand and asks what kind of treatment was he doing. He informs her that he knew what he was doing and that she should trust him. He promises that the patient would recover soon and the wife loosens her grip on his hand. Raymond starts operating on the abscess and he remembers the knowledge he got through the class surgeon. He needed to have a cool head but a passionate heart. That was the way surgeons were expected to be. They would not falter no matter how desperate the situation was and would always try to save their patient. With that medical knowledge, treating a hip abscess was not even comparable to surgery. He cuts the abscess and the pus starts pumping out of it. He cleans it using a clean cloth and then uses the boiled and cooled water to clean the inside of the wound. Then he uses the knife to remove all the dead and injured tissues. And as the last step, he uses a herbal antiseptic potion to treat the wound from the surgery. The family of the patient is happy when they hear that the treatment was successful. Raymond promises a full recovery in a few days. The patient comes to his senses soon enough and his wife and daughter cry tears of joy when he speaks to them after so many days. They thank him for what he had done. The clinics did not even check him properly because there was no money involved, which left him to die. Raymond had treated the man and saved their family. The daughter runs to him and hugs him. It was the first time anyone had thanked him for anything. It was the first time he was appreciated and acknowledged. He was even called the savior for treating his patient. This feeling, the feeling of healing others, was the most wonderful thing in the world for him. But when Raymond returns to the Bellin clinic, Langs does not believe that he cured the patient. He is saying a lot of things, but Raymond cannot hear them as he is lost in his thought. No one would believe that he cured a gluteal infection in this place. Illnesses were relatively easy to cure, but something like an abscess was not. Heal was not an all-powerful magic spell that could eliminate every disease and disorder. It only boosted the vitality and natural healing of the patient. For things like a hip abscess, heal was useless as it could not be dealt with unless the pus was removed. Vitality had no role in it. There were many problems with the healing system of the continent of Lapentana because they relied too much on heal and did not try to research more about healing and medicine. But Raymond's chain of thought is broken when Lang shouts that he would check the patient himself to ensure that he was not lying. The consequences of lying would be terrible, but Raymond has nothing to be scared of. The system informs him that he had completed his quest and his rewards had been issued. He gained 10 skill points and gained 2 levels. The system tells him that the more patients he treats, the more experience he will get to level up. Once he reaches level 40, he would be able to rank up from a rookie resident to a trained resident. Raymond calculates that if he could rank up like this, he would eventually become a doctor, then a specialist, and finally a professor. He is happy and checks out his stats again. He is a level 3 surgeon now and has 15 skill points and 2 status points. He checks out the information about the various stats he has. Stamina was the measure of his physical sturdiness and included strength and endurance. Senses controlled his body and made him better at delicate motion. Intelligence was the ability to find a solution to a problem from the knowledge he possessed. But the last stat was hidden and he could only see a question mark. The system tells him that his level was not enough to see that stat. Raymond decides to put the 2 points into his senses. He had a hard time performing the surgery yesterday, and he needed to become better if he wanted to do more complex surgeries. He is daydreaming about becoming a good healer with this knowledge. It was so advanced, and with the help of the player status, he could even become the best healer in the entire world. But then Langs comes back and he says that the patient was indeed cured. But he attributes it to luck and claims that the patient must have healed himself. But he has to keep his word and decides to give Raymond a chance. He takes him to the first aid station. Raymond is given 15 days to prove his worth in this place if he wants to take the certification examination. He is excited that it was the very thing he needed. The more patients he helped, the more he would level up. It was the closest place to the emergency room in the medical knowledge. But there is a problem. No one took him seriously at the first aid station. The people there push him and look at him as if he was some sort of pest. They wonder why is he here when the chief healer had decided to throw him out. They are adamant to not treat him as anything more than a cleaner and an errand boy. Raymond thinks that if it continued, he would never get the chance to look at a patient. He thinks that he needed to take the initiative to seek a patient. He has someone on his radar. A young apprentice named Hansen is a C-ranked student who is just average. He is the kindest student who works in the first aid room and is considerate towards Raymond. But he is also timid and has to clean up the first aid room mostly by himself. Raymond approaches him and starts talking to him in a friendly tone. He says that he will do the entire cleaning of the room, but he needed his help. When the other healers were away, Hansen would let him do small things like changing bandages or applying ointments on wounds. Hansen is not so sure if he wants to take the offer. The senior healers would get angry at him if he let Raymond do those things. But Raymond plays the emotional card and gets Hansen to agree to his offer. It would benefit both of them as Hansen would not have to spend hours cleaning the room and Raymond could level up quickly. Raymond starts helping out the patients every chance he gets. Whenever the patients did not come in huge numbers, the senior healers rested in their offices. He changed bandages, gave medicines and applied ointments during that period. He only got 1 experience point for such small tasks. But it is enough for him to rise to level 4 in only 3 days. He puts the stat points he gets to senses again. He decides to keep grinding points and leveling up. One day, he would become the best healer in the world and live a life of luxury. He imagines that he will live a lavish life, nothing like the unfortunate one he came from. He would have enough money to do anything he wanted. He would never be treated less than a human. He remembers all the things he lost because he did not have money or reputation. His mother died. His life at the palace was pathetic and even the servants mistreated him. He would never let anything like that happen again. While he is applying medicine to an old woman, she compliments him. She says that he was the kindest healer she has ever met. Langs, the chief healer, was skilled but he was too rude. Raymond knows that kindness is the second best thing he could give as a healer to the patients. He had experienced it when his mother was ill. Everyone was cruel to them and it broke his heart. The old lady leaves and the system tells Raymond that he had completed another achievement. Since he was kind to a patient, the achievement Kind Healer was obtained. His fame had increased and he obtained 5 skill points. He wonders what he can do with those points. But before anything else, he needs to clean the first aid room. He finds it hard to clean it properly and decides to do it half-heartedly. The continent of Lapentana did not focus on cleanliness and treatment either, but he reminds himself that he is a surgeon and he must make sure that the patients are treated in a clean environment. That was a fundamental part of medical knowledge and he had to do it. He thinks of the luxuries he will enjoy in the future as he cleans the dirty room. In the future, when he became a successful healer, he would hire servants to clean. But he has hurt his back while cleaning the entire room himself and hopes that he had put some points into stamina. But the system has a complete list of messages for him. He had leveled up and completed many achievements during cleaning. He had got more skill points and they added up to 40. Now he could access the market and buy skills in exchange for skill points. Raymond is really excited about the new feature that has been unlocked. He opens up the market immediately to buy a good skill. But we will have to wait for the next video to find what kind of skills are there in the market and what Raymond buys. Will he meet another patient that only he can save in the next video too, or will he have to do small chores to level up? Let us find out in the next video of this series.